Hello, Project Focus. This is Carlos.
And Bella?
Welcome back to Wonder. This is reading number 6. Before we get started, we're gonna share our 3 comic strips from the last time we read. Go ahead.
So I got Julian, and he's Darth Sidious, and he's talking to the mummy Jack, and he's asking why do you hang out with Augie? And Jack said, I don't know. Then I have Augie crying in the bathroom. Then I have Vaya and Gran walking at the sunset.
Okay, for mine, I have Augie listening to the boys talk about him when they didn't know he was there because he changed costumes. Then I have Via and her grandmother looking at the sunset. Then I have Augie running towards Via after she comes home after 2 weeks with Grams. So from there, we're going to continue our story. Major Tom. One of the three of us, Miranda, had almost always been the sweetest to August, hugging him and playing with him long after Ella and I had moved on to playing something else. Even as we got older, Miranda always made sure to try to include August in our conversations. Asked him how he was doing, talked to him about Avatar or Star Wars or Bone or whatever she knew he liked. It was Miranda who had given Augie the astronaut helmet he wore practically every day for the first year, for the every day for the year when he was 5 or 6. She would tell him Major Tom. She would call him Major Tom, and they would sing "Space Oddity" by David Bowie together. It was their little thing. They knew all the words and would blast it on the iPod and sing the song out loud. This Miranda always been really good about calling us as soon as we got home from summer camp. I was a little surprised when I didn't hear from her. I even texted her and she didn't reply. I figured maybe she had ended up staying at the camp longer now that she was a counselor. Maybe she met a cute guy. When I realized from her Facebook wall that she'd actually been back home for a few weeks, so I sent her an IM and we chatted online a bit, but she didn't give me a reason for not calling, which I thought was bizarre. Miranda had always been a little flaky, or I figured that's all it was. We made plans to meet downtown, but then I had to cancel because we were driving out to visit Todd and Papa for the weekend. So I ended up not seeing either Miranda or Ella until the first day of school. And I have to admit, I was shocked. Miranda looked so different.
Her hair was cut in this super cute bob that she dyed bright pink. Of all things, and she was wearing a striped tube top that A seemed way inappropriate for school and B was totally not her usual style. Miranda had always been such a prude about clothes. And here she was, all pink haired and tube topped, but it wasn't just the way she looked that was different. She was acting differently too. I can't say that she was nice because she wasn't nice because she was, but she seemed kind of distant. That I was a friend, like I was a casual friend. It was the weirdest thing in the world. At lunchtime, the three of us sat together like we always do, but the dynamics had shifted. It was obvious to me that Ella and Miranda had gotten together a few times during the summer without me. Though they never actually said that, I pretended not to be at all upset while we talked. Though I could feel my face getting hot, my smile being fake, although Ella wasn't as over the top as Miranda. I noticed a change in her usual style too. It's like they had talked to each other beforehand about redoing their image at the new school, but hadn't bothered to clue me in. To clue me in. I admit I had always thought I was above this kind of typical teenage pettiness, but I felt a lump in my throat throughout lunch. My voice quivered as I said, "See you later," when the bell rang.
After school, here we're driving home today. It was Miranda in 8th period. She had just sat down at the desk right behind me. I had forgotten what mom had called Miranda's mother that night before to ask if she could drive me home from school. You don't have to, I answered instinctively, casually. My mom can pick me up. I thought she had to pick up Augie or something. It turned out she can pick me up afterwards. She just texted me. Nope, not a problem. Oh, okay. Thanks. It was all a lie on my part. I, I couldn't see sitting in a car with the new Miranda. After school, I ducked into a restroom to avoid bumping into Miranda's mother outside. Half an hour later, I walked out of the school, ran the 3 blocks to the bus stop, and hopped on the M86 to Central Park West and took the subway home. Hey there, sweetie, Mom said the moment I stepped through the front door. How was your first day? I was starting to wonder where you were. We stopped for pizza. Incredibly how easily a lie that can slip through my lips. Is Miranda not with you? She seemed surprised that Miranda wasn't right behind me. She went straight home. We have a lot of homework. On your first day?
Yes, on our first day, I yelled, which completely surprised Mom. But before she could say anything, I said, school was fine. It's really big, though. The kid seemed nice. I wanted to give her enough information so she wouldn't feel to ask me more. How was Augie's first day of school? Mom hesitated, her eyebrows still high up on her forehead from when I'd snapped at her a second earlier. Okay, she said slowly, like she was letting out a breath. What do you mean, okay? I said. Was it good or bad? He said it was good. So why do you think it wasn't good? I didn't say it wasn't good. Geez, Via, what's up with you? Just forget I asked anything at all, I answered, and stormed dramatically into Augie's room and slammed the door. He was on his PlayStation and didn't even look up. I hated how zombified his video games made him. So, how was school? I said, scooching Daisy over so I could sit on the bed next to him. Fine, he answered, still not looking up from his game. Augie, I'm talking to you. I pulled the PlayStation out of his hands. Hey, he said angrily. How was school? I said fine, he yelled back, grabbing the PlayStation back from me. Were people nice to you? Yes. No one was mean. He put the PlayStation down and looked up at me as if I had just asked the dumbest question in the world. Why would people be mean? He said. It was the first time in his life that I heard him be sarcastic like that. I didn't think he had it in him.
The Padawan bites the dust. I'm not sure what at the point that night Augie had cut off his Padawan braid, or why that made me really mad. I had always found his obsession with everything Star Wars kind of geeky, and that braid is in the back of his hair with his little beads was just awful. But he had always been so proud of it, of how long it took him to grow it, and how he had chosen the beads himself in a craft store in Soho. He and Christopher, his best friend, used to play with lifesavers and Star Wars stuff whenever they got together. They had they had both started growing their braids at the same time. When August cut his braid off that night without any explanation, without telling me beforehand, which was surprising, or even calling Christopher, I was just upset I couldn't even explain why. I seen Augie brushing his hair in the bathroom mirror. He miraculously tries to get every hair in place. Meticulously tries to get every hair in place. He tilts his head to look at himself from different angles, like there's some magic perspective inside the mirror that could change the dimensions of his face. Mom knocked on the door after dinner. She looked drained, and I realized that between me and Augie today has been a rough day for her too. So you want to tell me what's up? She asked nicely and softly. Not now, okay? I answered. I was reading. I was tired. Maybe later I'd be up to telling you about Miranda, but not now. I'll check in before you go to bed, she said. And then she came over and kissed me on the top of my head.
Can Daisy sleep with me tonight? Sure, I'll bring her in later. Don't forget to come back, I said as she left. I promise. But she didn't come back that night. Dad did. He told me Augie had a bad first day and Mom was helping him through it. He asked me how my day had gone, and I told him it was fine. He said he didn't believe me for a second, and I told him Miranda and Ella were acting like jerks. I didn't mention how I took the subway home by myself, though. He said nothing. He said nothing tests friendships like high school, and then proceeded to at poke fun at the fact that I was reading War and Peace. Not real fun, of course, since I'd hear him brag to people that he had a 15-year-old who is reading Tolstoy. But he liked to rib me out where I was in the book, in a war part or in a peace part. And if there was anything in there about Napoleon's days as a hip hop dancer, in that it it was still silly stuff. But Dad always managed to make everyone laugh, and sometimes that's all you need to feel better. Don't be mad at Mom, he said as he bent over to give me a goodnight kiss. You know how much she worries about Augie. I know, I acknowledged. Want the light on or off? It's getting kind of late, he said, pausing by the light switch at the door. Can you bring Daisy in first? 2 seconds later, came back with Daisy dangling in his arms, and he laid her down right next to me in bed. Good night, sweetheart, he said, kissing my forehead. He kissed Daisy on the forehead, too. Good night, girlie. Sweet dreams.
Once I got up in the middle of the night because I was thirsty, and I saw Mom standing outside Augie's room. Her hand was on the doorknob, her forehead leaning on the door, which was ajar. That means it was open. She wasn't going in his room or stepping out, just standing right outside the door as if she was listening to the sound of his breathing as he slept. The hallway lights were out. The only thing illuminating her was the blue nightlight in August's bedroom. She looked ghost-like standing there, or maybe I should say, angelic. I tried to walk back into my room without disturbing her, but she heard me and walked over to me. Is Augie okay? I asked. I knew that something would he would he would wake up choking or on his own saliva if I accidentally turned over on his back. Oh, he's fine, Mom said, wrapping her arms around me. She walked me back to my room, pulled the covers over me, and kissed me goodnight. She never explained what she was doing outside his room, and I never asked. I wondered how many nights she stood outside his room, and I wondered if she's ever stood outside my room like that.
Breakfast. Can you pick me up from school today? I said next morning, smearing some cream cheese on my bagel. Mom was making August lunch, American cheese on whole wheat bread, soft enough for Augie to eat. While August sat eating oatmeal at the table, Dad was getting ready to go to work. Now that I was in high school, the new school routine was going to be that Dad and I would take the subway together in the morning, which meant his having to leave 15 minutes earlier than usual. Then I'd get off at my stop and he'd keep going. And Mom was going to pick me up after school in the car. I was going to call Miranda's mother to see if she could drive you home again, Mom answered. No, Mom, I said quickly. You pick me up. Or I'll just take the subway. You know, I don't want you to take the subway by yourself yet, she answered. Mom, I'm 15. Everybody my age takes the subway by themselves. You can take the subway home. You can take the subway home, said Dad from the other room, adjusting his tie as he stepped into the kitchen. Why can't Miranda's mother just pick her up again? Mom argued with him. She's old enough to take the subway by herself, Dad insisted. Mama looked at both of us. Is something going on? She didn't address her question to one of us in particular.
You would know if you had come back to check on me, I said spitefully, looking like you said you would. Oh God, Vaya, said Mom, remembering now that she had completely dished me last night. She put down the knife she was using to cut Augie's grapes in half, still a choking hazard for him because of his size of his palate. I am so sorry I fell asleep in Augie's room by the time I woke up. I know, I nodded indefinitely. Mom came over, put her hands on my cheek, and lifted my face to look at her. I'm really, really sorry, she whispered. I could tell she was. It's okay, I said. Vaya. Mom, it's fine. This time I meant it. She looked so genuinely sorry, I just wanted to let her off the hook. She kissed and hugged me, then returned to the grapes. So is something going on with Miranda? She asked. Just that she's acting like a complete jerk, I said. Miranda's not a jerk, Augie quickly chimed in. She can be, I yelled. Believe me. Okay then, I'll pick you up. No problem, Mom said, decisively swiping the half grapes into a snack bag with the side of her knife. That was the plan all along anyway. I'll pick up Augie up from school in the car, and then we'll pick you up. We'll probably get there around quarter to four. No, I said firmly before she even finished. Isabel, she can take the She can take the subway," Dad said impatiently. "She's a big girl now. She's ready. War and Peace for crying out loud. She's reading War and Peace for crying out loud. What does War and Peace have to do with anything?" Mom answered, clearly annoyed. "That means you don't have to pick her up in the car like she's a little girl," he said sternly. "Vi, are you ready? Get your bag and let's go."
I'm ready, I said, pulling on my backpack. Bye, Mom. Bye, Augie. I kissed them both quickly and headed toward the door. Do you even have a Metro card? Mom said after me. Of course she has a Metro card, answered Dad, fully exasperated. Yeesh, Mom. Stop worrying about Stop worrying so much. Bye, he said, kissing her on the cheek. Bye, big boy, he said to August, kissing him on top of the head. I'm proud of you. Have a good day. Bye, Daddy. You too. Dad and I jogged down the stoop stairs and headed down the block. Call me after school before you get on the subway, Mom yelled at me from the front window. I didn't even turn around, but waved my hand at her so she knew I heard her. Dad did turn around, walking backward for a few steps. War and Peace, Isabel, he called out, smiling as he pointed at me. War and Peace.
Genetics 101. Both sides of Dad's family were Jews from Russia and Poland. Papa's grandparents fled the pogroms that ended up in NYC at the turn of the century. Tata's parents fled the Nazis and ended up in Argentina in the 40s. Papa and Tata met in a dance on the Lower East Side while she was on town visiting a cousin. They got married, moved to Bayside, and had Dad and Uncle Ben. Mom's side of the family is from Brazil, except for her mother, my beautiful grands, and her dad, Augusto, who died before I was born. The rest of Mom's family, all her glamorous aunts, uncles, and cousins, still live in Alto Leblan, a ritzy suburban south of Rio. Grands and August moved to Boston in the early '60s and had Mom and Aunt Katie, who, who's married to Uncle Porter. Mom and Dad met at Boston University and have been together ever since. Isabel and Nate, two peas in a pod. They moved to New York right after college, had me a few years later, then moved to a brick house in North River Heights, the hippie stroller capital of Upper Manhattan, when I was about a year old. Not one person in the exotic mix of my family gene pool had ever shown any obvious signs of having what August has. I pored over grainy sepia pictures of long dead relatives and babushkas, black and white snapshots and distant cousins in crisp white linen suits, soldiers in uniforms, ladies with beehive hairdos, Polaroids of bell bottom teenagers, and long haired hippies. And not once had I been able to detect even a slight trace of August's face in their faces.
Not at one. But after August was born, my parents underwent genetic counseling. They were told that August had what seemed to be a previously unknown type of
Mandy
mandial facial di- cholestasis caused by an autosomal recessive mutation in the TCOFF1 gene, which is located on chromosome 5, complicated by a hemifacial microsomia characteristics of OAV spectrum. Sometimes these mutations occur during pregnancy. Sometimes they're inherited from one parent carrying the dominant gene. Sometimes they're caused by the interaction of many genes, possibly in combination with environmental factors. This is called multifactorial inheritance. In August's case, the doctors were able to identify one of the single nucleoid deletion mutations, and made war on his face. The weird thing is, though, you never know it was it from looking at them. Both my parents carry the mutant gene, and I carry it too.
Punnett square. If I had children, there's a 1 in 2 chance that I will pass on the defective gene to them. That doesn't mean they'll look like August, but they'll carry the gene that got a double dose than those who has the same defective gene. There's a 1 or 2 chance that our kids will carry the gene and look totally normal, and 1 in 4 chance that our kids will not carry the gene at all, and 1 in 4 chance that our kids will look like August. If August has children with someone who doesn't have a trace of the gene, there's a 100% probability that their kids will inherit the gene, but a 0% chance that their kids will have a double dose of it, like August, which means they'll carry the gene no matter what, but they could look totally normal. If you marry someone who has the gene, their kids will have the same odds as my kids. The only explanation that only explains the part of August that's explainable. That's what other part of that's the other part of genetics makeup that not inherited or just incredibly bad luck. Countless doctors have drawn little tic-tac-toe grids on my parents for years to try to explain the genetic lottery to them. Geneticists use their Punnett square to determine inheritance, recessive, and dominant genes, probabilities of chance, but for all they knew, that's more they don't know. They can try to forecast the odds, but they can't guarantee them. They use terms like germline mycosis, chromosome arrangement, or delay mutation to explain their science is not an exact science.
I actually like how doctors talk. I like the sound of science. I like how words that you don't understand explain things that you can't understand. There are countless people under words like germline mosaicism, chromosome realignment, or delayed mutation. Countless babies who will never be born like mine.
Out with the old. Miranda and Ella blasted off. They attached themselves to a new crowd destined for high school glory. After a week of painful lunches where all they would do was talk about people that didn't interest me, I decided to make a clear break for it. They asked no questions. I told no lies. We just went our separate ways. I didn't even mind after all. I stopped going to lunch for about a week, though to make the transition easier to avoid the fake, oh, shoot, there's no room for you at the table, Olivia. I was easier just to go to the library and read. I finished War and Peace in October. It was amazing. People think it's such a hard read, but it's really just a soap opera with lots of characters. People loving, falling in love, fighting for love, dying for love. I want to be in love like that someday. I want my husband to love me the way Prince Andre loves Natasha. I ended up hanging out with this girl named Eleanor, who I've known from my days in PS22. Though we'd gone to different middle schools, Eleanor had been always been a really smart girl. A little bit of a crybaby back then, but nice. I'd never realized how funny she was. Not a laugh out loud dad funny, but full of great quips. And she never knew how lighthearted I could be. Eleanor, I guess, had always been under the impression that I was very serious, and it turns out she's never like Miranda or Ella. She thought they were stuck up. I gained entry through Eleanor to the I gained entry through Eleanor to the smart kids table at lunch. It was a larger group than I've been accustomed to hanging out with, and a more diverse crowd. It included Eleanor's boyfriend, Kevin, who had definitely became close class president someday. A few techie guys like Eleanor who were members of the yearbook committee and the debate club, and a cute guy named Justin who had small round glasses and played the violin, and who I had an instant crush on. Then I'd see Miranda and Ella, who were now hanging out with this super popular set. We'd say, "Hey, what's up?" and move on. Occasionally, Miranda would ask how August was doing, and then say, "Tell him I said hello." This I never did, not out of spite, but because August was in his own world these days, and there was time at home that would they would never cross paths.
October 31st. Grant had died the night before Halloween. Since then, even though it had been 4 years, this has always been a sad time of year for me. For Mom, too. Though she doesn't always say it, instead she immerses herself in getting August's costume ready, since we all know Halloween is his favorite time of year. This year was no different. August really wanted to be a Star Wars character called Boba Fett. Boba Fett. So Mom looked for a Boba Fett costume in August size, which strangely enough was out of stock everywhere. She went to every online store, found a few on eBay that was going for an outrageous amount, and finally ended up buying a Jango Fett costume that she then converted into a Boba Fett costume by painting it green. I would say in all she must have spent 2 weeks working on that stupid costume. And no, I won't mention the fact that Mom had never made any of my costumes, but really it wasn't no bearing on anything at all. The morning of Halloween, I woke up thinking about Grant, which made me really sad and weepy. Dad kept telling me to hurry up and get dressed, which had just stressed me out even more. And suddenly I started crying. I just wanted to stay home. So Dad took August to school that morning, and Mom said I could stay home. And the two of us cried together for a while. One thing I knew for sure, however much I missed Grant, Mom must have missed her more. All those times August was clinging to life after surgery, all those rush trips to the ER, Grant had always been there for Mom. It felt good to cry with Mom. For both of us.
At some point, Mom had the of our our watching The Ghost and Mrs. Muir together, which was one of our all time favorite black and white movies. I agree that it was a great idea. I think I probably would have used this weeping session as an opportunity to tell Mom everything that was going on at school with Miranda and Ella. But just as we were sitting down in front of the DVD player, the phone rang. It was the nurse from August's school calling to tell Mom that August had a stomach ache and should be picked up. So much for the whole movie and mother-daughter bonding. Mom picked August up. At the moment he came home, he went straight to his bedroom and threw up. Then he went to his bed and pulled the covers over his head. Mom took his temperature, brought him some hot tea, and assumed the August mom role again. Vi's mom, who had come out for a little while, was put away. I understood though. August was in bad shape. Neither one of us asked him why he Neither one of us asked him why he had worn his bleeding scream costume to school instead of the Boba Fett costume Mom had made for him. If he annoyed Mom, if it annoyed Mom to see the costume she had worked on for 2 weeks tossed on the floor, unassured she didn't show it. All right, we're going to stop there with our reading. Don't forget to do your 3 more comic strips for the story, and we'll share those next time. We'll see you again next week. Have a good weekend. Bye.